Effects of video games on kids and teens. 1. What are the negative effects of video games on kids and teens? Video games have become a popular form of entertainment and they may not be good for kids and teens. Video games have become more than just an activity for children and teens. The industry earns around $21 billion a year and has turned gaming into a lifestyle. Yet as the popularity of gaming grows, so does the concern about its effects on people's health. Some video games contain violent or inappropriate content, which can lead to negative consequences for children.
Video games are a popular form of entertainment for many people. Games can be used for both entertainment and education. However, some games contain content that is inappropriate for children, such as violence or sexual content. If these games are played excessively, it can lead to consequences like mental health problems and antisocial behaviors in children. Avoid video games that have content that is unsuitable for your age. Check out games that are appropriate for kids and teens before they play them. Video games have changed drastically over the years. Whereas they once involved simply pressing a few buttons and playing through a linear story, they now involve many different ways to play. Some popular games, such as Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto, are very violent and contain content that is unsuitable for young children. To make sure you're buying the right game for your child or teen, check out this list. 2. Video games are a multifaceted entertainment industry, with a rich history dating back to the early 1970s. The most popular genres of video games that were published in 2021 were role-playing games, 14.2%. Action, adventure games, 13.3%. Sports games, including arcade, 12.3%. Strategy and simulation games, 9.5%. Fighting games, 8.6%. These stats show that the gaming market is still growing, as it has been since the 1990s when these types of games became more mainstream. 3. Why is it the most preferred role-playing game? Role-playing games are the most preferred type of game because they are immersive and can allow players to live out their fantasies. Role-playing games have been a popular form of entertainment for decades. There is no doubt that they will be around for decades more. Role-playing games allow players to live out their fantasies in a world that is not constrained by reality. 4. What emotions do role-playing games satisfy the players? Role-playing games are a type of video game in which the player controls one or more characters that have adventures in a fictional world. The player typically interacts with the game by controlling one of these characters and completing specific quests, either alone or with other players. The player can explore the world and complete quests either alone or as part of a group. Role-playing games typically allow players to choose from a variety of different character archetypes, which often reflect certain stereotypes such as mage, rogue or warrior. Each archetype comes with its own set of skills and abilities so that each class can play differently. Players can also customize their character's appearance and clothing, but some games may not include this option. 5. How violent video games affect teenage brain development. Violent video games are a hot topic, with many people debating the effects that they have on teenage brain development. The debate is not so cut and dry. We have to take into account the individual's personality and what their predispositions might be. The effects of violent video games on teens are still being researched, but some studies show that it can lead to an increase in aggressive behavior, thoughts, and actions. Some scientists argue that these games can also lead to increased empathy levels in some players because they get a glimpse of what it feels like to be in the shoes of someone who is being victimized. 6. Causes and consequences of playing video games to children's health. The American Academy of Pediatrics, AAP, is a group of pediatricians who specialize in the care of infants, children, and adolescents. They have published a report on the effects of video games on children's health. The OP has found that playing video games could be detrimental to health. It can cause obesity, aggression, and violence in children. These are some of the consequences that can come of playing video games excessively to children's health. 7. The dangers of teenage gaming addiction. There are many causes of a teenage addiction to video games that have turned into a life-threatening condition. One such case is the story of a 14-year-old boy named Dylan, who was addicted to gaming and had lost his life. He would play for hours on end and would not eat or sleep. He would also neglect his hygiene, which led him to develop an infection in his foot that spread throughout his body. His parents found out about the addiction when he was hospitalized for an infection. The doctor said that Dylan's addiction had caused the infection. After all, he refused to take care of himself because he was too busy with gaming. This is just one example of how video game addiction can turn into danger not just for the addicted person but also for those around them as well. 8. What should parents do about it? A recent study by the American Psychological Association, APA, has revealed that many children are spending more than 2 hours of their day on digital devices. This is a significant increase from just a few years ago, and the trend is not expected to change anytime soon. 9. What are the positive effects of video games on children and teens? Video games can have positive effects on children and teens. They can provide a good way to spend time, have fun with friends, and be creative. They may also help them to develop their skills in math, science, literacy, or even help with emotional development. There are a few common misconceptions about video games that are worth mentioning before we go any further in this article. They teach violence and make people aggressive. That's not true at all. Some kids may learn how to become more violent by playing a violent game, but even then it is no more than the same amount of violence that they would see in any other type of media such as TV shows or movies, so it's not anything worth worrying about, unless of course you just want an excuse for your kids not to play video games. 10. What types of video games can be useful to children? Video games have been around for a long time, and there are many types of video games. Some are more intellectually stimulating and some are more social. But what type of video game is the most beneficial to children? This is a difficult question to answer because not all video games work the same way for children. The right type of video game depends on the child's interests, personality, and learning goals.